Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Tales from the Fandom. I am joined by returning guest Christine of the Footnoting History Podcast. If you haven't listened to her original episode, go check it out. But we are here to discuss a TV show that we both fell in love with and enjoyed on the Disney Plus network. And that was Mighty Ducks Game Changers. And
Yay.
Christine, I want to point out for people, because this is an audio podcast, but you showed me what you were wearing today. Please, for the people listening, what are you wearing for this momentous occasion?
I showed up for our recording, even knowing it was an audio podcast, in a original style Mighty Ducks jersey from the character Guy Germain. Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you for letting me talk about that.
Of course, and it's the original one with the duck holding the hockey stick
It
and with
is
the
the
D5.
D5.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, I was thrilled. I know that it's been a journey for you to get the jersey, and
It
now it's
has.
here.
It is. I mean, I've only wanted one since circa 1992. Took a while, and eBay for me to be able to get one. But here we are, and I felt like I had to, and it arrived today, so that made it even better because it was just in time to start the recording.
Exactly. It is just in time for you to handle a little issue with it.
Exactly.
You took care of it,
It's all
and
good.
we're here. I used to have a Mighty Ducks hat way
Right.
back in like high school days, but it was the the Anaheim Ducks logo
Right.
at that
I
point.
had the Anaheim Ducks coat because of the logo being on it, like whatever the sports jackets were of the time.
Like the starter jackets.
Yes, that's what it was. And
Yeah.
I had it with the Ducks logo on it, but it was totally because I loved the movies.
Oh, of course.
Like, if I was watching hockey, I'd have to be an Islanders fan because that's where I'm from. But my heart is always going to belong to something that has to do with these movies and the TV show. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to wear a Ducks, jacket around my town. Look at me.
Absolutely. I mean, I had my favorite hockey teams from living in Canada,
Right.
and then when they were like, "Oh, the Mighty Ducks are having a real hockey team," instant. I'm joining, that fan bandwagon right
Absolutely.
there.
It was like instant fandom, right? Like everybody who liked the movie and was like, yes, time to go. And they were smart, right? Because they did it as the movies were still coming out. So it was like the ultimate hype.
Exactly. I think because I was reading an oral history of the movies when they were making them, and I believe that they may have played on Arrowhead before anything actually happened on Arrowhead. Like they were there before it was open to the public.
Which is the kind of thing that like dreams are made of, right? Who doesn't
It
want to be
is.
the person to like christen something like that?
It's just fantastically wild to think about that as just somebody, like, especially if you're into hockey and it's like, oh, I get to be on the ice like that.
Right, exactly. I mean, you wouldn't turn it down.
Oh no, not at all. Now, we are both big fans of the movies. I was actually shocked because Twitter is one of those places where sometimes you don't want to share the things that you love.
Not me.
Because
I let my freak flag fly all the time.
So
I'm I'm gonna watch 100 Disney movies and you're all gonna hear about it. I'm gonna, live tweet my rewatching of Game of Thrones. You're gonna learn everything that I love, and if you don't like it, sorry, bye.
one of the things I was worried about when I posted, oh, I like the Mighty Ducks, I'm digging this show, was ridicule and scorn. But then no, there you were, right along with
I was
me.
like, I'm ready. I'm so excited.
And I said, that this is just fate. Like, because I've been looking for a way to have you come back for a while, and it just nothing ever like lines up, or we're never like in sync with certain things. And it's like, this will work.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Mighty Ducks.
Talk about the Mighty Ducks all the time. Like it's funny because like one of the first stories that I remember writing when I was a kid was like the Mighty Ducks 4. When I like wrote myself into it. So it's like, this goes way back. I was like, I'm gonna learn how to skate to like be in a Mighty Ducks movie that I'm gonna write myself at age like 12. I'm ready. Let's go.
Yes, do it.
Sadly, never happened. There was no Mighty Ducks 4 written by me with me learning how to skate and showing up and being in the team. But, young hearts, they want what they want.
That's right. Now, when the original movies came out, did you watch them in like the movie theater, or were you more like picking them up on the video when it came out?
I remember seeing the first here I'm gonna really probably considering what I'm wearing, it's gonna annoy people. I didn't appreciate the first movie as much until I got older.
Hmm.
I remember seeing it and liking it, but not being, like, super obsessed with it. I became really obsessed with it on the second one, when they're against Iceland and they're, like, representing the country, and then the third one is actually my favorite. Um, so I kind of, like, eased my way in. I saw them all as they came out, but by the time the third one came out, I started to really appreciate the first one, more. I don't know if I guess I wasn't really too young. I was 8 when the first one came out, but I think some of the stuff kind of went over my head,
Hmm.
or I just didn't connect to it because so much of that first movie is really about Bombay over the kids,
Yeah.
and then the more you go on, the more it's about the kids. And so I guess it took me a little bit of time to really appreciate all the Bombay aspects of the first one. But I rewatched the first one last night. So obviously I grew to really like it. But yeah, I definitely always liked them from the beginning. I liked them enough to get the jacket when the second one came out and the team was started. So that was just and I kept wondering like what was going on? Where are they going? You'd like follow their careers as they left, and grew up. Felt like you kind of grew up with them
Right.
at the time because what the third one was 96
Yep.
and they were supposed to be freshmen or sophomores?
I
Freshmen. They were either freshmen or sophomores in high school,
Yeah.
which would have been like only 2 years older than me. So, I kind of was, like, able to feel as though they were kind of giving me a little bit older, so it's like they were cooler than me, but I could relate to what was going on, and I really just enjoyed all the relationships with the team players throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. I remember watching the first two on video, and then the third one I saw it in theaters because
Right,
by that time I was a senior in high school and apparently could drive myself to movie theaters to watch
right,
movies.
right.
Uh, I do remember trying to write a movie review for it for the school newspaper, and the person in charge, not the student editor, but the teacher. Oh gosh, the person who oversees the class was like, "Yeah, I don't think that will will benefit the newspaper at all."
But it was something that people would wanna read about because it was those movies were like an event, I felt like. I mean, we were different ages, so maybe your age group was different than mine, but my age group was like, "We are ready for this. Bring it to us.
Bring
We're
us the
ready."
third Mighty Duck
That's
movie.
right. Keep it going.
Now, I remember when Disney Plus was getting ready to launch and
Mhm,
they announced that they were doing a live action Mighty Ducks game, like the Game Changers thing, right? And I was
mhm,
like, okay, they're announcing a whole heck of a lot of stuff. We'll see how it shakes out.
right.
What was your thought when they announced that they're doing a show?
Oh my god, please don't mess up the legacy. Because it had I don't wanna say that I'm a purist, but I get really attached to original things. So whenever something is rebooting or relaunching, I tend to go into it going, I need this to either be like completely different where I can like disassociate or enough, show enough kind of respect to the original that it feels like a continuation. So I just remember thinking, I really want to watch it. If Gordon Bombay is not in it, I'm out. Because I felt like you need to have at least some beginning continuity. He didn't have to be with it forever, but there needed to be some sort of like tip of the hat to the originals,
Hmm.
and he's the easiest way to do it. And then I was just like, fingers crossed, like they don't completely change what this is supposed to be. But I was also excited because I want people to get into that, and I was hoping that the original movies would kind of get a lift off of this because I'm not expecting who are now watching it to know the old movies,
Hmm.
but you hope that they might go back and watch them because they're also right there on Disney Plus.
Exactly. And
So
I think that because and we were talking about this, I think, as the show was getting close to ending, is that the show really is very strange in its positioning as there's a lot for us people that watch the movies, and
Mhm.
there's a lot geared to us. But then there's a lot where it's like it's geared to new people, but it's very in flux. Like it's not sure where it's leaning towards. And I was like, okay, I got it, but I don't
Right.
know how much like the Ducks legacy or no like maybe like I don't want to say watching the movies would obviously like it would help with a lot
Right.
of the stuff that carries over to it, but at the same time, it's not required viewing.
Right. I think I just wondered, right, because we people who may not have seen the show, who are listening to this, it's not a reboot, it is a continuation, right? It's like the next generation that's kind of coming up and where they're gonna fit into it and how they're gonna be playing hockey, they don't fit in, whatever, they've formed their own team. And I think in the very beginning of the series, I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it. Like this is going for brand new audience, brand starting from the ground up, but with enough like winks and nods to the originals for people like me who love the movies." But as it kind of went on and it started to focus more on what the Ducks were, who Bombay was in the past, and then ultimately they bring in, some of the original Mighty Ducks, including Guy Germain, the guy on my jersey. And that to me, I was like, "Okay, so how much are they expecting the audience to care about this?" Right? Because if I'm a kid who's never seen the movies, who's watching the show and loves it for the show, do I care that these old people are showing up? Like, do you know what I mean? 'Cause if you haven't seen the movies, does that still hit?
Yep.
Like emotionally hit, right? Like in are we allowed to spoiler alert? Are we
Oh
spoiling?
yeah, yeah. Spoilers from
Okay.
now on.
Yeah, okay.
Spoilers.
Because in the very final episode when they've been called the Don't Bothers the whole season, and they have this, like, off, unofficial game against the Ducks to try and get the name of the Ducks for themselves, and they bring out the original Ducks jerseys for the kids to wear. For me, I was like, "This is amazing, like, I love this," kinda teary-eyed because of how it all comes full circle. And I was like, "But do they expect that to hit the same way for somebody who has no real attachment to these movies?" I mean, it's not gonna detract for it.
Hmm.
If you're watching them from the beginning, it's just a TV show, it's still gonna be like, "Oh, cool, like, the old Ducks, I get it, he was a duck, whatever." But I just kind of was not really sure what their ideal audience was. Or maybe it's parents and children, and they expect the parents to be the ones to explain it to the kids. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely where again there's a lot of stuff geared to people like us, and then geared towards the new audience of people finding it on Disney Plus, whether they stumble across it or not. Um, like I had a thought like I'd love my kids to watch this, but then my second thought was they really need to watch the movies first, so that way it
Right.
hits the same way.
Right, exactly, like, if you're a fan of the original movies, I guess in a way this is gonna be a comparison that people are like, "Really?" But the best way I can think of is it's kind of like how long there was between the original Star Wars movies and then when they came back out again with the new ones, the first time,
Hmm.
and it was like, sure, you could go see whatever I'm not a big Star Wars person, but you could so I don't know the names of the movies. You could go see whatever the 4th movie was that came out, the first one of that 2nd batch,
Right.
and follow it along, but is it going to mean as much when you don't know the original 3? Like, it's kind of like that situation where you almost have to get the full understanding and the full hit of it, you have to have a love of the originals. You don't need it to enjoy the show, but it does definitely add a layer to it. I mean, it's kind of fun to sit there and watch it and say, "Oh, okay, look, so they get this girl Sophie from the Ducks to come over to the Don't Bothers, and she's totally the Adam Banks." Like, if you say that to yourself when you're watching it, it's kinda nice to see these little like, appreciate the winks and nods that they give you and the parallels.
Yep. Yep.
But I don't know what the audience was, unless they just tried to make it as broad as possible, because they did do a good job of making it not necessary that you saw the originals.
Hmm.
which is good because you don't want to start something, however many years after the original and then say, well, if you didn't see it, you're screwed. Like, that's not going to help anybody. Right? I mean,
Exactly.
it's like, oh, no, we need to kind of give some sort of a backstory within it,
Exactly.
which we
Yeah.
get. We get because, like I had said to you when it started, I was like, how is it possible that Bombay hates hockey again?
Oh.
I remember watching the first one and then messaging you and just going, "How did we end the first series with that, like, walk down the tunnel where he, like, smiles back at the team, like, 'You're grown, go forth and conquer,' and
Mhm.
now suddenly here we are in this one, and he's, like, the grumpy guy again who hates kids and hockey." It's like, how did we backpedal there? We got that story. Of
We
course,
did.
they
We
give
we
it
did get the
eventually.
story. I was I when that first episode aired and we had Bombay as the disgruntled Bombay, I was worried. I was like, "Oh gosh, did he have to go back to being a lawyer? Like, did
Is he on community service
did
again?
did his soul get sucked out of him?"
Right, right, right. For sure. It was not something that I had expected. I mean, I know there has to be a conflict because if he was there just like, "Yeah, no big deal," then there'd be no story, right? There's no learning curve for the adults if he's
Yep.
just, like, ready to go. But it was confusing. I felt like it took a while to get to the backstory.
It did. I think it's letting people get to know him before they wanted to like lore dump because there's a
Right,
lot of
oh, for
stuff going
sure.
on too.
And again, that goes back to, like, for me with when I was a kid watching the first movie, it was a lot of lore dump in the beginning. You get his whole backstory from when he's a kid before you even meet the new team.
Oh gosh, yes. Lots of
So
flashbacks.
so I'm definitely, like, I'm okay with that. Me as somebody who knew the lore was like, "Okay, fill me in on the gaps." But as somebody watching it from the beginning, I appreciated that they did not, lore dump at the beginning because that can be a lot and it can cause you to disengage if it's just exposition all the time.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we don't need exposition all the time.
I want to talk about the one sticking point that I had at the start of it, which
Okay.
is I am not a fan of Lauren Graham, and I'm not like saying that I don't like her work.
Right,
I just don't connect with her. I
right,
don't really dig her as whatever character that she's playing. There's just something about her that just doesn't click for me. Like Gilmore Girls and some of the other stuff that she has been in. I've just never been like, oh yeah, like I like Lauren Graham. And
right.
when they announced that she was essentially like the lead adult figure before Emilio Estevez had signed on, I was like, I don't know,
No, I get that.
but she.
I don't have any real relationship to her. I've watched her on stuff. I did not watch the Gilmore Girls. My mother was a big fan of Gilmore Girls, so I used to see it when she would watch it.
Mhm,
And I will say she never made me want to watch it, if that makes sense.
right,
But I saw her in a musical. I saw her in Guys and Dolls on Broadway and everything, and I'm always just okay with her. I'm sure she's a lovely person, and this is not to, like, say I don't like her personally or anything, but there are certain people where I go, "Oh, if they're in it, I have to watch it."
right.
And then there are certain people where I'm like, "I'm not watching it," and there are others who kind of just fall in the middle, and for me, she's always just kind of fallen in the middle for me. She's been fine in everything I've seen her in, but I didn't go, "Oh, yes, Lauren Graham is doing Mighty Ducks. I cannot wait for her to be in it."
Well,
And you had
after
reservations.
I did have reservations. However, I will say I enjoyed her character and I enjoyed the growth of her character.
Right?
Um, there. I think near the
I have a
end.
lot of issues with her character.
Oh, I will say that near the end, I was like, really, like you're going to the dark side of needing these kids to deviate from the we have fun plan
Right,
of hockey. Like I didn't really buy into that as far as her character went,
right.
but overall I was like, okay, like I don't have a problem, and I'll rewatch it because I enjoyed the show, and she's not going to be like the thing that keeps me away from it.
Oh, no, no, me either. And none of my issues with the character were her. It was more the writing choices. I I had some objections to the kind of unevenness of her character. Um, I just felt like so in the beginning, right, she's got all this gumption and she's like, "You know what? I don't want my kid on this team that's not serving him well anyway, and your attitude is terrible, so I'm gonna go start this other team, and, we're just gonna have fun with it. We're gonna call ourselves the Don't Bothers because everybody thinks you shouldn't bother to even, come around us or whatever." I'm like,
Hmm.
"Okay, that's great." And then she got kind of confused slash bemused slash annoyed when they were like, "But we don't enjoy getting slaughtered every game."
Right.
And I just thought, she's this kid's mom. She loves him. We see that they have a good relationship. That's not in question. He's been on a team or been around a team at least that wins a lot. Yes, he wants to have fun, but does anybody enjoy getting pounded into the ground all the time? Like, I don't understand how she thought that would be fun.
Right.
I'm not saying she has to have them, screaming "Win the W" like the Hawks in the first movie, but, it was strange, some of the twists and turns that they had her take, because I felt like she was a smarter mom than that, and that they weren't necessarily giving her credit,
I
if
can
that
see
makes
that.
sense.
It does make sense, and it is something where, I mean, she is essentially like, it's even pointed out that even though like she's a paralegal, she is essentially equal in like in skill to be an attorney,
Right.
and that's her whole like side story that's going
Right.
on.
Right, and I
Like,
definitely appreciate seeing her come into herself. I like that she was smart enough to know that she was gonna need help eventually, that she takes the time to learn the game. There were a lot of things that I liked. I just felt like there were certain things about that didn't make sense,
hmm,
like, I get it, certain pa parent everybody parents differently, but I just thought it was strange that, like, she was okay with the fact that her son basically fires her. And then she just decides not to go because they should go on their own to the tournament at the end? All I kept thinking was, if I had ever said to my mom, "You're fired," she'd be like, "You can't tell me that." And second of all, wild horses aren't keeping me away from this tournament, even if you just go and watch. Like, I just thought some of her decisions were interesting. So I said, I didn't nothing about it detracted from the show for me. I just felt like I couldn't really get a good handle on her
hmm,
because every time I thought I knew the character, she did something that went against that, and I did think Graham handled it well. I thought she did a good performance, but I just felt very confused as to what her kind of trajectory was actually supposed to be.
right.
I did like that we saw her learn how to play a little bit. We see her overcome that negative relationship with her frenemy boss lawyer, Stephanie,
Yep.
but I did feel like her character was kind of uneven, and they felt like they were kind of figuring her out as they went.
Yeah, and I was also really concerned with her relationship with Gordon Bombay, and I
Mhm.
was like, please don't turn her into Charlie's mom.
Yeah, I was gonna
Like,
say, is she Charlie's Mom 2.0 where they circle each other forever?
yeah, let's not do that, okay?
Yeah, that would have been strange because they did have very kind of similar stories. They're divorced or, single moms.
Hmm.
And then they end up around him a lot, and they connect to him, and he helps them, and they help him. So that was there,
Yep, it
but
was.
at least it didn't go, you know, super romantic or anything like that. They didn't really need it.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about, and I mentioned this before we start recording. I like to call it the Glee issue,
Mhm.
where they have enough people to play hockey. Although we'll get to that in a moment because I'm gonna mention that too. So they have enough people, but then they need to fill it out for storyline purposes. They need to
Right,
make sure that they have enough members to make the fictional 10-person cut. Which, let
right.
me just tell you, as a person, and I'm maybe not telling you because you're up there, but for people that haven't played like hockey or ice skated, hockey is a tough sport, and you need a lot of people to like switch out and take
Mhm.
breaks. For the at least half of the season, our Ducks roster was at 7, which is
Right.
a goalie plus 5 people. So that's 6 people on the ice, 1 person on the bench. There is no way to sustain a team like that for 3 periods of hockey. It's
Like,
not possible.
yeah, no wonder they were losing all the time. They're probably exhausted.
And then so we got they picked up Sophie
Mhm.
mid season, and then they rounded out the cast with 2 I think they're called like the Czech, Nick calls them like the checkmates or
Right.
something. It's two boys that have moved there, and they're from the Czech Republic or the former Czech Republic. Um, what did you think about the kids overall?
It took me a while to get used to them because I feel this way with a lot of things that come out now. Tones have well, accepted tones have changed, right, in children's programming. So, like, when you go back like I did yesterday and you watch the older ones, it's a lot I don't wanna say darker, but it's
Hmm.
kind of sharper. And the kids, I mean, they're you when you first meet them, they're, like, playing a prank on somebody with, like, dog crap. Like, it's not it's not like they're innocent, kind-hearted, good people necessarily. They're not
Hmm.
bad kids, but they have their flaws and they're right up front. And some of them have really fresh mouths. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
there's a scene where they find like was it Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition or something?
Yep.
And they're in like this group was a lot more obviously good-hearted from the beginning. And I was like, "Okay, I need to see your flaws and your personalities because" and I think I probably talked about this when we did the Game of Thrones episode. I don't usually like characters who come across too good. I want the flaws, like, I wanna see what your issues are, and I wanna have that kind of come out. So it took me a while to kind of really warm up to who they were and what their storylines were. I felt like they were a lot more trope heavy,
Hmm.
like who has to fit into which slot. You know, you have the nerdy girl, the popular girl, the kid who sits at home and plays games. It was like they checked off every box.
Right.
So I in the beginning I kind of was looking at it saying, I really hope that they become more than caricatures of these types of kids that we think exist.
Hmm.
Not that they don't exist, they do, but you want them to have more layers than just, you know, filling in that sort of stereotypical child. So it definitely took me a while. I think Nick was the one that I found kind of like the gateway to liking them because he seemed to me to be the most well-rounded from the beginning.
Hmm.
Um, and then I also really liked, oh my gosh, Maya? Yes,
Okay.
Maya, who was the kind of popular group girl who realizes that she doesn't care as much about being in the popular group. If she wants to play hockey, she's gonna play hockey.
Right.
I liked them a lot immediately, and I also really liked the kid Logan, who they think is gonna be on this team because he's great because he has all this hockey gear,
Yes.
and then you learn that he can't skate at all, which reminded me kind of the Fulton Reed character, how he's really great shot, but he can't skate at all, and they have to teach him.
Yep.
So, I liked that. I liked Sophie too, even though she wasn't in it as much in the beginning. But in general, it took me quite a while to be able to pinpoint how I liked them. I thought they all did a good job being what they were supposed to be. You know, I didn't sit there and go, "Oh my gosh, these terrible child actors." Like, not at all. That never happened at any point during it. It just took me some time to kind of stop seeing them as checking off the boxes and start seeing them as well-rounded. Because it kinda felt like to me at the beginning, "Let's just get every possible type of misfit that we can think of."
It's the island of misfit hockey players.
Right, exactly. So it took some time for me to get into their stories. Like, I liked when we saw Nick's home
Hmm.
and we got to know his family, you know, and we got to see kind of what makes him who he is. You got to see that with Sophie's family eventually too. You know, how her parents were kind of pushing her already to think about college when she's really young,
Yep.
you know, and she's not allowed to like eat carbs
Oh my
starting the
gosh,
next
yeah.
day. And you know, when you see that, and I definitely think that it's a pacing thing too, because you know, this whole season, one season was as long as like all three movies.
Yeah, yeah.
S So it's much more of a slow burn to get to know them, whereas in the movies, you got attitude right away because you have to jump in and know them all immediately.
Exactly, and not only that, with the original, especially with the first movie, you're actually getting like a good solid, what, 12 kids, as
Right,
opposed to what they had, the 8 primary ones that we got to watch. So
right, and also they're already a team.
yeah.
So it's less about kind of finding the pieces and seeing how they work together than it is about fixing the pieces that are already there, which is important, like an important difference in terms of learning the characters because we come into the original Ducks where they already have kind of a solid dynamic
Hmm.
and Bombay is coming in to kind of make order out of it, right? But the
Yep.
kids already know each other, they're already friends. In Game Changers, you're spending kind of the whole season getting to the point that's the start for these kids in the other movie, in the sense that they're not a cohesive team at the beginning.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, half of the at least over half the kids didn't know how to skate or play hockey to begin with.
Right.
Like that's the thing where it's like I I did not expect us to get to a situation like at the end of the season with a state championship game. Like
No, me either.
I was like, man, they're really like pushing this. There's how are the don't bothers with leading off with this team, really like that I think that was the point of, okay, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is, but it's not, there's no way.
No, I mean, even in the movies, it was hard to see them getting there, and then they barely claw in. But in the TV show, I think at first, in the very beginning of the TV show, I thought maybe we were going to get there. But what happened was they continued to be the don't bothers for way longer than I thought they were going to.
Mhm.
I thought the don't bothers name was going to be like something that happens for a little while, and then that maybe the getting the name back would be kind of a halfway mark. But they ride the don't bothers until the end of the season, which once I realized was going to happen, I kind of adjusted my expectations for where the season was going to go. So then when they did get to the championships, I was like, I didn't see that happening. Like, I thought we were going, once I realized we were going for the slow burn, I thought it was going to be the very slow burn.
Yeah, it was definitely where I don't like, I thought my thought, because I didn't even think of anything like a state championship at that
Right.
point.
No.
I was like, okay, you know what? They're going to play the Ducks and win after like being beaten down half the season,
Right.
starting to get their legs, and then just have like this win where it's just super underdog, improbable,
Right.
and done. And then next season, they'll actually be the Mighty Ducks and go on from there.
Right.
But again, that like when they started talking about state, I was like, you've
Yeah,
got to
alright.
be kidding me.
Yeah, I kind of would have liked it if because so again, for people who haven't been watching it, they go to the championship thing and then they end up forfeiting, because they don't have enough players once one girl gets injured. But I did think it would have been interesting to see them play and lose,
Hmm.
and that comes from my love of the TV show One Tree Hill, where they build it up that you're finally gonna have this basketball game winning at the end and they lose. And you're like, "Oh my gosh." And then it kind of pushes you into the rebuild and picks you up for later on. And so I feel like I was kind of disappointed that when they finally get there, like they forfeit.
Hmm.
Um, which I understood why they did it. The girl gets hurt, you're not gonna make her play, but I kind of was like, nobody thought that they should have extra players in case somebody gets hurt. It's hockey. People get hurt all the time, even
Well,
kids.
the here's I don't okay. if I'm running that scenario, right? Like obviously Sophie is a core linchpin of the team.
Correct.
If you need to play her, you put her on the ice and you take her off within like a few seconds. She's played. Go forth because you ran the team with
Well, but do you
7
don't
kids.
do they all have to play?
I mean, they
Or
said
they
that you
have to
need
be
10.
active,
They have to be active, which
but couldn't
I
she just be active and ride the bench the whole game?
exactly.
That
Like
confused me. But
that is the thing because I mean, we saw it with the one of the episodes previously where Logan sh- Alex wouldn't play Logan
right.
and put him in and
'Cause
be
you can
like,
be active and not play. That happens in sports
right.
all the time. Because they wanna make sure you don't have to go on an injury list or you don't have to miss time,
Mhm,
so they'll kinda keep you on the side. Now, I guess they were playing it with the idea that without her, they couldn't win, so they weren't gonna do it,
which is ridiculous.
which is
But
I mean, you would hope that that team at that point would have used her getting hurt as, like, a rally to, like, show that they could do it anyway, or
right,
do it for Sophie kind of a situation. I mean, 'cause
exactly.
obviously she wasn't gonna play. I mean, her knee looked terrible, that made sense. I
Yeah.
just didn't think that they needed to go to the extreme. And then I was thinking, because there's the character Koob, right? Like the goalie.
Yes.
And his big thing in that situation there is that his family finally shows up to watch him in something, and then they forfeit.
Yes, they showed up like halfway through one of the games, and then it's like, oh,
All right.
well, we've
We
emerged from our cocoon of whatever where we've been.
right, exactly. And he's like, finally somebody's, here from my family to see me. And then all of a sudden, not anymore because they forfeit. I was like, that sucks for him. Because I was really happy for him when his family showed up and, like, waved to him or he saw them or
Hmm.
whatever it was that happened when he sees them coming down the steps in the stadium seating area. And
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, "Oh," and they don't even address that, but that's sad. It shouldn't have happened like that for him because there were so many ways I feel like you could have made them get through that game and then still have the rematch.
Hmm.
So I thought it was strange that they went with, "Oh, yeah, she's hurt, we can't play, bye."
Yeah.
Especially after they do that whole fight to see whether or not Bombay can still coach them
Hmm.
because, he gets the technicality of whether or not he can be there, and then they, come in and use the law to fight it and whatever, and then they still don't play at the end. It just felt very anticlimactic, even though the climax was really supposed to be the game against the Ducks.
Hmm.
It was strange to me that they used that out to make it an get them to that point, only to then have it be taken away.
Exactly. And what did Sophie do at the last game anyway?
Well,
Like
right. It's not like she
so
was suddenly better.
exactly.
There's no reason why she couldn't have, ridden the bench for the game and done exactly the same thing. Even if they lost, at least they would have played. But I guess they had to have them not play so that they could have the conversation about how the Ducks win was always going to have an asterisk next to it because
Hmm.
they didn't play. But I mean, that's not worth it. It's not worth it to
Now,
me.
I want to because I want to talk about I want to talk about the diversity of the kids cast because I
Yeah,
really enjoyed that.
right,
Growing up when in the 80s and I was
uh-huh,
a super big hockey person and I
right,
collected the NHL cards. I could probably count on one hand the amount of people that weren't white playing
right,
hockey at the time.
right,
And I know it's become more diversified. Like, and I'm not saying more diversified, but there's definitely a lot more players in the NHL that are not white at this point. But
okay.
the
I don't watch the
casting,
NHL enough to have any comment on that,
that's
so just
that's
letting you
okay.
know.
But the casting of the kids, I really enjoyed that we got across the board a bunch of not white kids. Like
Right,
that you had Coob, you had Sophie, you had Sam,
right,
and even on the Ducks team and a number of the other teams where it was across like really good to just see the inclusion on the teams for not only just guys but girls, but also just the diversity of having a multitude of people out there, because I know that there's a lot of negative. I don't know if negativity is the right word, but you don't really see a lot of representation on like ice skating or skating in general until for hockey. At least I haven't, and it's just nice to see.
Right. In real hockey, like
Yeah,
actual hockey.
yeah.
No, I and that's kind of an inheritor from the original too, right? I mean, in the original, they had the series, the team was relatively diverse.
Hmm.
I mean, maybe not as no, I would say, thinking on it, there was diversity. I mean, I'm glad to see it be continued and be expanded,
Yep.
um, because I actually in one of the I was just trying to find on my computer where the article was that I read last night, where they said that originally, in the original draft of the first film, Charlie and his mother were supposed to be African American.
I saw that. Yeah.
I was like, "Oh." I mean, he says that he dropped it for whatever reason. I don't know what his reasoning was, but I thought that would have been kinda cool. I mean, I don't see any reason for there to not be a widespread of people,
Hmm.
because a team can be made up of any type of person. Anybody can play these sports. Anybody
Yep.
should play these sports. And I think it's a good thing that we haven't moved away from showing that in a movie like this just because it may not be reflected on the real ice,
Hmm.
right? Because how are you going to build these types of situations on the ice where you have a more diverse group of people if there's no examples of it,
Exactly.
right? So starting with kids seeing other kids do these things might make them want to do it.
Exactly. And
And
I'm super happy to see it.
yeah, I don't see why anybody would. Well, people are gonna people, but I don't. Yeah, people are gonna do things I don't agree with all the time. But I don't see any reason to not want to have a wide spread or wide array of people be shown in films.
Absolutely.
It just it's to me it's more natural.
Now, I want to mention Nick, because you said Nick was your gateway into the group, into the
Right,
kids group.
right, and to really like understanding the kids and seeing them as more than just checking off the boxes. Yes, of types of different types of misfits.
Now, what was any of that related to the fact, and it hit with me when he mentioned it, was that he did a podcast.
I did laugh at that. I was like, of course. I It's so strange to me to keep seeing like podcasting in pop culture now. It's it's like, oh, okay, and very rarely do they get it right, I feel
Hmm.
like. But I did laugh at that when he said that. I was like, of course he did. That's my kid. I understand. I've been podcasting. You should be podcasting. It was cool though to see that mentioned because, it is a very accessible means of communicating with people.
It is, and
And
especially for. Oh, go ahead.
no, I don't know if at that age I would have had the gumption to have one, but I probably would have if it was common. And for that age group, it is common. My age
It
group coming
is
up, we didn't even have them yet. So it's a totally
that
different world. But I was up on the things that we did have. So I imagine it would have been the same concept.
exactly. I mean, if you have a computer and especially like a computer, like a laptop, where you have a webcam and mic built in, you can do whatever you want to do, and
Right.
they have microphones, and microphones aren't hard to come by. Or
No, they could use their phone. Like it's that easy if you need to.
exactly. I like that with the podcasting aspect, that they did keep it around. Not so much as I mean, with Mary Jo was really being that commentator,
Right.
the play by play person.
Right.
Which I guess if you're broadcasting live works.
Right. Yeah.
So I enjoyed that they kept that through. I even enjoyed that her co-host ended up being her dad, and her dad's
Yes.
like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but
Yes.
I
Well, 'cause
feel
it was cool that he was supportive enough to be there.
right. I feel like if that had been me doing it at that age, my dad would probably have done the same thing and been like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm here to do it.
Oh,
And
absolutely, mine would have too.
I feel like as a parent to my kids, if my kids were like, hey, I want to do this thing, but I need you to like be my helper, I'd be
Right.
right there to do it
Well,
for them.
right. I mean, you obviously, some parents wouldn't, but you hope that they would, right? And it's great to see a positive parent-child relationship anywhere on television,
Hmm.
and we do see a lot of that in this. Not everywhere, obviously. We see Sophie's parents are a little tough, and Coop's parents don't show up until the end, but you do see it with, like you said, MJ and her father. You see it with Nick and his moms. You see it with Evan and Alex. So and they're all different types of parenting in the way that they relate to their children is different, but they all support them. And I think that's important to see and to encourage. And it definitely helped. Like, I liked the scene where um, Alex meets with all the mothers.
Hmm. And the
Because
dad.
and the dad, right, who's like, "Hi, I'm here," um, because they're supposed to go up against the Ducks moms, however it worked, right? They were supposed to compete. Yes, they were supposed to
Yeah.
compete against the Ducks moms in that, like, competition thing for, the 2 teams, and I liked that because since these are a longer form than the movies, you get to kind of see more of who's behind these kids or not behind them,
Hmm.
as the case may be, and to see how their home a window into their home life that we don't get. I mean, in the first movie, you don't know who the heck their parents are than Charlie's mom, really. You see Adam Banks's dad, and he gets mad because he doesn't want his kid to switch.
Yep.
But other than that, like, you don't get a lot of home life from these kids. You see Jesse and Terry's dad in
Yep.
the first one because he
He
comes
gets
in a few
upset.
times. Well, right, he gets mad that they suck and that they're taking dives because he's telling them to take the dives to do anything to get an advantage,
Yep.
and he comes in and starts yelling at that because he's protecting his kids, which is as he should be doing.
Hmm.
Um, so I like that we get more of that, not as much as could happen if it was a long, goes on even longer, but it's interesting to not have it be just here are the kids on the ice. We don't know anything about their home lives or anything that's going on behind them. We see them in school more than we see them in school a little bit in the movies, but not as much.
Hmm.
Their off the ice relationships are more explored here, I feel. Like, I thought it was particularly interesting because you were talking about, wanting to discuss the children's cast. I thought it was interesting to see the the relationship, especially between Lauren and Maya. Because they are completely different people. Lauren's more free-spirited, kind of a nerdy person, and Maya is more of the popular girl situation, and to watch them try and navigate bringing their positive team experience together
Hmm.
into the outside world and having difficulty with it, because I think that would happen.
Oh, it absolutely does. Because I remember trying to do that with like high school friends and work friends,
Mhm.
and it did not work at all.
It's because it's a totally different situation, so seeing the way that they ended up having to both realize, "Hey, look, we're not the same people off the ice that we are on it, and we need to find a way to kind of come together in both spots." I thought that was good, because it in the originals, they're kind of just all friends everywhere.
Hmm.
You don't really see that conflict except for Banks because the
Yeah.
outsider they don't want on the team. But in this one, because they don't have that pre-existing kind of clique relationship, I was glad that they didn't make it so easy.
Yes.
Right? Like, "Oh, yeah, we're all gonna be on a team. We're all besties." Like, no, it's not gonna happen that way.
Yeah, because
That's
they pulled from
unrealistic.
they pulled from all sorts of social circles within the school.
Right.
Like that's come on, school nowadays that would like the yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just yeah.
There are definitely cliques that exist. when I was in school, I didn't feel like I was really in one. I had a lot of friends from different groups, but they didn't all hang out together.
Mhm.
So, like, if you had taken one person from each of those groups that I was friendly with and put us all together in one room, it would have been so awkward.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, so I was appreciative of the fact that the team didn't automatically translate into everything being okay all the time for everybody.
yeah. I did like that that was, like, it was a realistic approach to it
Right.
versus a hunky dory. We're all a team now. We're going to hang out, but we're all okay with our friends and stuff too, because that would never fly, especially
No.
with the way that Maya and Lauren's circles were.
Well, right, exactly. If there was no conflict, it wouldn't have made any sense.
Hmm.
And it's good to see that conflict resolve, or that they worked through it,
Yep.
but it would have disappointed me if they made it easy.
Hmm.
Because as much as you want these shows to be an escape, and I want them to be an escape, I watch them to make me happy. There are definitely points where kind of like your bullshit meter goes off. And you're like, come on, this isn't going to happen like this. Like, I liked the realism of kind of Nick being nervous slash unsure of like how to get Evan to hang out with him. He was like, I want him to be my bestie and sleep over, but how is this going to happen?
Hmm.
Like, that's a very real anxiety that I would have had as a kid.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I do this? And then when they like, oh yeah, we should invite Coob, and he's like, wait, this isn't what I had planned. Like, I think I liked seeing that because it made him real. Like he was expressing things that even if you might not have said it out loud, you might think, well, my plan was I'm going to be with this one person today and we're going to become besties. And now there's
Yep.
somebody else here. What am I going to do? And it turns out fine. But in the beginning, you're kind of like, that's not, wait, what? What's happening here? How'd I end up with multiple people now? That was only supposed to be one.
Yep. And
Um,
and you say it turns out fine. It turns out fine then, but then Logan,
then it
who
comes
lives,
back out later,
yeah,
right?
it comes back and Logan's like, dudes, I live across the street
I
and
know.
I where's my invite?
I know, and I get that too because
Oh
you get
yeah.
hurt, and I love like I said, I love Logan, mostly because he reminds me of, like, a composite of other characters, and he's adorable, and I would have had a crush on him if I was a kid. Based on the fact that I had a crush on Guy Germain, he would have been the kid that I had a crush on in this one, because he looks the most like him, and that
Mhm.
was my type as a child. So, I would have been, like, all about him, but I get the being hurt. Like, that's definitely going to happen. Like, it's one thing if it's, okay, it's Nick and Evan, but then when you start inviting other people, but not this one other guy or 2 other guys, because Sam doesn't get invited either, but he's not in that conversation.
Right.
Like, it's kind of like, well, why? Why are these 2 good enough, but I'm not? And I thought that was a very valid thing, and that was a good one too because they make a big point throughout the series of Logan being the one who's, like, the cute one and, like, all the girls want, and
Mhm.
I thought addressing the fact that that doesn't make him feel successful or good was important too,
Yes. Uh,
because you can be, like, a super, super duper traditionally attractive, meaning that, like, everybody sits there and goes, "Oh my gosh," like, I mean, I said the kid's adorable, but there were no non-adorable kids on the show, really, but in terms of me as a child, he's the one I would have looked at the way all the girls do in the show, and to look at that and say, "Well, that's not what makes him who he is," was good.
yes. I like that he pointed out that he's over at his house looking into Nick's house and
Mhm.
wanting, that relationship and that familial bond,
Right.
and like that's what like he's jealous of Nick versus where Nick is jealous of like how he looks
Right,
essentially.
exactly, and it was good that they took some time to kind of give them this complexity, which is what I was saying in the beginning. I was like, "Are they not gonna do this? Is this just gonna be like the nerdy kid, the cute kid, the whatever?" 'Cause,
Hmm.
you never know when these things start out where the focus is going to go. But the fact that they did take the time to deepen that and to show us I think almost every single character had a sort of layered focus come up over the course of the series,
Hmm.
which was ideal. Because then
Yes.
by the end, you do view them as a cohesive team.
Absolutely. And I do want to say that I think the one thing where I was like, I hope that they don't push it too far, and I think that they held off enough of it was Nick's interest in Winnie, the person at the ice palace, the like the
Uh-huh.
concession person.
Oh, right, his
I
crush on her?
His crush. I was like, I can understand because ever there's people have crushes on older folks all the time.
Of
I
course.
just I was just glad that it didn't progress further than where it was. I was like,
Right.
I'm glad that it stopped and he moved on for to marry
MJ.
Joe and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I totally, like, I get it. Who didn't, like, see somebody who was older than them and have a moment of being like, you know? But, I mean, I'm sure some people didn't, but I know I did it when I was growing up,
Hmm.
but it wasn't, like, the focus of my life.
Yeah.
So, it was important for him to kind of acknowledge that, and I liked the fact that he ends up, if I remember it correctly, seeing her with somebody who looks kind of like a grown-up him.
Yes.
So it gives him that kind of like, "Oh, right, somebody people aren't out of my league," because he goes through a lot of this show seeming like he feels like everybody's out of his league,
Hmm.
and the fact that he learns that that's not the case was good. But they definitely overall, there was a lot more focus on the kind of coming of age aspects of multiple children,
Hmm.
whereas in the original, it's mostly Charlie
Yeah. Yeah.
who gets the big growth scenes. They all do it, but the rest of the kids don't have it anywhere near as much as he does. Whereas here you have the time to kind of explore a different kid every episode or so.
Exactly. Like I remember when I did my rewatch when we started out talking about Mighty Ducks,
Mhm.
I rewatched all of them. And for the amount of people from amount of the kids, especially in the first movie that are on the team, you really don't get a lot of time with some of them. The one especially the ones that don't get picked up for the second movie.
And some of those I was surprised were not picked up for the second movie because they have some of the bigger parts in the first movie.
Mhm.
Like you see, Carp has a pretty big part. We never see him again.
Yep.
Um, oh my gosh, the short kid with the baseball hat.
Mark, Peter,
Yes,
yeah,
him.
Peter, yeah.
I mean, he's the one who outs Bombay as having played for the Hawks to the
Yep.
kids, and he has a whole arc there. Never see him again.
Nope. Tammy and
And
Tommy
Tammy
gone.
is not gone. They they're the ones who I was thinking of when the Czech brothers come in
Yes. Yeah.
because they get recruited for being really good skaters, and then you never really hear about them.
Yep.
I mean, they exist and they're there, and you see them, and they get a line here and they get there again, but you don't. They definitely don't get fleshed out the way the other ones do.
Mhm.
And also, like, in the movies, they're like the whole thing is that she's like a figure skater,
Yep.
right? And then they kind of forget about that, and then they bring in, Kenny Wu,
Yep.
who's also a figure skater and fantastic, and I loved that they showed him figure skating. Look, I'm willing to overlook the fact that they bring him back in Mighty Ducks Game Changers in an original Ducks jersey when he did not have an original Ducks jersey because he was in the second movie, not the first one.
Mhm.
Because they showed him still doing the figure skating, I thought that was fantastic that they kept that in there.
How did you feel about the people the original Ducks group that came back?
I was really happy about it. I spent that whole episode smiling because, I mean, there are definitely people missing,
Mhm.
right? I liked that they acknowledged why Charlie wasn't there, that they gave that a reason.
Yep.
Um, I liked that they didn't kind of let Gordon off the hook for things.
Oh yeah,
That was
that was
important.
big. Yeah.
Yeah, because again, if they just showed up and were like, "Oh, yeah, everything's great, no big deal," that wouldn't have been fun. They felt to me like the way they treated them now was a logical progression of where those characters would be.
Mhm.
I didn't watch any of it and think, "No way. There's no chance that this character is ending up in this world or doing this thing or anything like that." I loved that they had Guy and Connie still together
Yes.
because in the movies, they're, like, totally in the background and you know that they're together, but it's never a real big plot point.
Right. It's really only pointed out like in the beginning of the second movie where they're like kissing on the like the overlook or whatever, and then
Right,
they're like, okay, it's time to go.
and then that's it. Like, it's just like, you know it because they're always together,
Right.
but it's never something that's really kind of talked about or made anything of. It's just exists in
Hmm.
the world, and I liked that that continued, that they didn't just say, pretend like it never happened, or come up with some backstory where they, like, hate each other, or they're divorced, or, something stupid like that. It was nice to see where they ended all the characters ended up,
Hmm.
and how they had a respect for the Ducks' history, and also seemingly, at least the characters did, an appreciation for the future enough to they were willing to come and play with the kids.
Exactly. I did also, there's always like the nods to stuff. I liked that Averman was
Uh-huh.
a limo driver and that he
Yes.
drove the limo out on the ice, and
Yes.
it's just like, okay, I get it. I see it right
Yes.
there.
It was perfect. It was, like, enough where we understood all the reasons why these things were happening, but if you didn't know them, you weren't lost.
Hmm.
Like, you can watch him like, "Okay, he's a limo driver, cool, he's on the ice with the limo," and just, like, roll with it. But it means something when you see it the original way and you know why that's a big deal.
Yeah. And Banks saying that he hasn't eaten cake in like 12 years. That
Yes.
was another line. I was
Yes.
like, okay.
Although I will say, even though I know it's a different plot line, I was kind of sad that we never had to see Sophie, like, stick her hand out with the stick and rotate it. You know, see what I'm talking about? Where he has to prove that, like, his wrist is okay or whatever it
Yeah.
is, and he
Yep.
comes in and he does the thing with the stick. I was like,
Yep.
"Can we shoehorn that in there for me somewhere?" Because I really wanna see Sophie do that, because I loved Sophie, I thought she was great. I thought she was too good for Evan, but because Evan kind of had his, you know, douchey moments,
Yeah.
and I kind of was surprised he got forgiven so fast by her, because she could have definitely done better. But I liked her a lot. I thought she was great. I was sad that they had her get injured,
Hmm.
but I understood why it was her that they picked for that spot.
I mean, they started it off with that from
Right.
from the first season or
Exactly.
first
That
episode.
that was not like a shock. It just sucks for her because her knees are going to be a mess by the time she's 20.
Hmm.
That character's not going to be playing hockey for too long when it's that bad.
Yep.
But it's this the series as a whole, and I know I said this to you before we started recording, but nobody else could hear that. Felt like a giant prologue. Like, because we don't get them to be like the Mighty Ducks until the end of the season.
Hmm.
So I felt like so much of it was, the building, and then the creation of the team and the falling apart of the team, and then everybody's getting to know each other. And now we have that, like, cohesive team that is now the Mighty Ducks of the title. And moving forward, assuming that they get a season 2, which we hope happens, I think the show will, evolve in a stronger way. Because it's hard to introduce and build all those characters in 8 episodes to the way that they did.
Hmm.
So I'm glad that we're reached, or have reached the point. It's 8 episodes, right?
A
Have
10.
reached
Yeah.
10. I watched them. You think I would know the number. Uh, it's like brain. But to get to that point, and now it's like they're the cohesive team, they have the name, they understand what they're doing, Alex understands what she is doing, Bombay is there to kinda help her out, they have the ice rink, everything's going okay. Like, I'm really interested to see on where we go from here, because now the building has been done.
Right. I as far as like, I again, you set it up perfectly. It's definitely, we're at the beginning of the story to where they would be a team from the first movie. Essentially, they know each
Right.
other, they've played with each other, and they've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, we are a team, let's do this. I would love to see a second season that not only continues to build the characters and their relationships, but definitely fleshes out a few more characters on the team.
Mhm.
I don't really know where they would go as far as like how they would play with like, are they going to do another season of them being in the league, or like what are they
Right.
going to do with it?
Right.
But I do want a second season. I
Oh,
want to
Hopefully, they'll
live in
have
this
more
world.
team members
Yes, more team members,
because we don't wanna
flesh
have to forfeit.
them.
No more forfeits, please.
That's right. Flesh out the characters that they bring in, build on the characters that they have, continue to integrate some of like the duck storyline. Like if I know that we talked about before we started, Keenan Thompson said that he
Right,
would come back.
right, which would be
And
great.
apparently he gets it all the time about like show me the knuckle puck. Like that's a big
Right,
thing apparently.
right.
Um,
Why would it not be?
and I'd love to see Joshua Jackson come back, even if
Yep,
it's just for a little bit to like explore what happened. Number one with Charlie, and
right,
then what Bombay's relationship with him.
right. I definitely thought that even though Charlie had his growth spurts, I felt like he was more immediately likable than Evan.
Oh yes,
Evan, I did not love as much. Charlie's, I feel like angst angsty phases came later,
yep.
so you already were, like, really following him and really with him before he got to that, which kind of made it more tolerable. Whereas for Evan, we kind of get the angsty part up front. It's like, "I haven't had enough time to really grow to love you, so I really just want you to get past this." 'Cause it's easier to put up with a character who kind of goes a little off from how we've known them once we've already established how much we like them. So to have all that kind of angst at the beginning, eh, makes it kind of hard to understand why everybody puts up with it.
hmm
I mean, I guess I hold grudges because if I knew him and he abandoned the team to go play for the other team, it would not. I would be so mad. It would not go well for it would take a lot longer than, like, locking everybody together in one room to get that kind of to ease over. But, it's a TV show, they're nicer.
That is absolutely true. And they have to, they've got to get past it to get that next episode.
Well, right, exactly. Which is that is actually something that could have probably worked better. There weren't too many plot lines that went through the whole season. A lot of it felt pretty self-contained outside of the adults, right? Because the adults have kind of like the longer arc,
Yeah.
and then the kids kind of have episodic situations.
hmm
And I do think a bit of s making things last a little longer would have been interesting.
I think really like I'm trying to think back, and the longest arc for the kids that I can think of is Maya and Lauren's, starting from where they are in their circles and then how
Right,
they end up. And
right,
that's really not like an interwoven part of fabric. It just like it'll pop up
right.
and go back and pop up, and that's the longest thing that I can really think of.
Yeah, I mean, everybody else kind of just gets their little one-offs, and so I do think that would be something to kind of work on because their relationships are not static and they're also not short. So to have it be, like you said, like woven better in and out would be nice because, like, for example, we almost never see Sam,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yep.
He gets on the team and then he's just kind of not there. He's just there, but not doing much of anything. And then they give him that one section where they go into how he's, like, suddenly, he's not doesn't have the energy anymore because of what's going on,
Yep.
and then that's fixed and we move on.
Yep.
And that's a disservice to the character, I feel, because he deserves the growth and the exposure. But I guess, when you're doing a first season and you're trying to figure things out, they tried to pack a lot in,
hmm
like, have everybody have their moment, kind of, instead of giving a longer focus on things. But I would like to see that fixed. Like, I feel like there are so many good bones in this first season.
Oh yeah, it's perfectly it's okay. I take it back. It's not perfectly, but it's definitely got the building blocks now that we've like it's got a foundation. We got a foundation for future episodes or future seasons to be built on
Right.
to really grow from here. And That's what I'm most looking forward to. I really hope that they get picked up for another season. I really hope that they figure out really how they're going to take the show and where they're going to navigate this new Mighty Ducks team. Um,
Right,
and I could almost see that there could be like a revenge arc from the former Mighty Ducks to see
right,
to like take their name back or to destroy the Mighty Ducks and
right. And it's like now, hopefully, they can kind of hit the ground running,
mhm.
right? Because we've done the lore dumps for pretty much everybody.
Yes, they can do what they did in the second movie, which is where they give Evan the duck call and he runs around and
Yes.
gathers the team together.
Yes. I mean, it took them a really long time to get to the flying V.
Oh my gosh, yes. I
Well,
I was like, they didn't even show like them practicing it. How are they
no,
doing this?
no, and all of a sudden, it's like, not only do they know what it is, but they know how to do it.
They know how to do it, and like the one thing that I was thinking of before that, because they had focused with Maya and Lauren on like a double helix play, and I was like,
Right.
okay, like is that their new thing?
I know. We're never gonna get the knuckle puck. We're never gonna get the triple teak.
Oh my gosh, the triple like yes,
But that would have been a cool thing to kind of see evolve. Like, it was cool when they did it,
yes,
but it also would have been cool to almost see them either resist it as old school or not be able to do it.
right. Like that, I wish now you could have seen like the flying V and almost again second movie where they just get demolished because
Right. Because
it's
they know
like,
it's coming.
oh
I
come on,
actually
the flying V after 20 something years.
Right, exactly, like, that would have been cool if they were like, "We're not doing this. This is old school. Everybody knows it. Like, forget it." But then they pulled it out at the end on their own, would have been really awesome. Why are we not writing this? Why are we why have we not been invited to consult on this? Like, excuse me, Disney, please hire us. We've been writing versions of this forever. We can help you integrate seamlessly the original. And I get that maybe they didn't want to do it because it's too much of a tie-in, but at the same time, you can have it be just something that he's teaching them, and either you get that it's from the originals or you don't. Doesn't matter if they resist it as, "Oh, well, yeah, we know you did it. We're not doing that anymore." I would have liked to see the evolution of him pulling out. I mean, I guess he's supposed to have evolved from that too,
Hmm.
but if you're going to do a movie or TV show about a sport and it becomes well known for a specific set of plays or moves or associations with certain ways that they play, you kind of should have that as a through thread, at least a little bit more.
Just a scotch.
I mean, you could have literally had Alex come in and trying to teach them the flying V and him being like, "No, we don't do that anymore." Like, even that would have worked because she supposedly studied up on him and studied up on the team.
Right.
So, she could have been like, "Alright, we're gonna try it," and he could have been like, "That's outdated, we don't do that anymore," or whatever. You could have somebody
Yeah.
come in and knock it down because then that makes them doing it effectively later on even better. Especially because there's it's that thing where something was really popular and then it's gone for a long time, so nobody does it, so that when you do bring it back, people are surprised,
Yep.
right? Like fanny packs. Nobody knew those were nobody knew those were coming back. I didn't need to see them again, but here they are. You know, same kind of situation. You think something's kind of like dead and gone because it's old and passé, but like I was excited when they did the flying V.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was completely blown away because you see it on the intro, right? Their little
Right,
introduction. I'm like,
right.
okay, this is probably the only time I'm going to see it.
This is it. I better get it in my heart because it's never gonna be here again. I mean,
Oh.
one thing that they could you imagine if they tried now to do the scene where they tie the goalie to the goalpost and just pummel him? That would not fly if you filmed that today.
Yeah.
It's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna tie Goldberg to the post and then just, like, pummel him." But I do like, I loved because I was a huge Julie Gaffney fan,
Hmm.
when she came in the second movie, and I used to love when they would show how bored she got.
Yep.
because she's just sitting there the whole time. So I was like, maybe that'll come in at some point. Maybe they'll get maybe season 2, they'll get a female goalie and a guy who does the rodeo, and the other Bash brother will come
Yes.
in. They need to have the 2 Bash brothers together on the show.
Oh
I would
gosh,
be
yes.
there for that. But I guess they don't necessarily want to encourage, like, purposely just beating the crap out of people all the time
I
anymore.
mean they
It's a
pulled it
gentler
with
time now.
they pulled it with there's those ducks who were essentially like the Hawks enforcers from the first season or
Right,
first movie,
exactly,
where they're like,
exactly.
"Go get them," and it's like,
Right.
what did you do? My job.
That's it's true. It's true, though. It was their job. It's yeah, it's hard to kind of make, anything about hockey too gentle
Right.
because hockey is not gentle most of the time. I mean, it's not like in a baseball movie or a TV show, the nasty physical side is limited.
Yep.
Especially now they have so many more rules in place about can you block a plate, all that kind of thing. In hockey, just like kind of in football, you're going to smash into people.
Mhm.
It does not matter how mild natured you are or how kind. It's just part of the game.
Exactly. They allow you are allowed to punch people in the head for a given amount of time until the referee is like, "Okay, you know what? You got your
Stop.
30 seconds. Let's go ahead and break it up."
Right. So, you know, as gentle as a lot of these kids are shown to be, I guess it's different, right? Because in the originals, they were edgier,
Mhm.
especially in the beginning. They get nicer as it goes on, but in the beginning, they're kind of, edgy. And it makes sense that they're going to try and smash into each other. With these kids, they're a lot gentler people.
Yep.
Um, so the idea of them going out there and smashing into each other is you have to get to there, right? Like they're not going to be the kind who go out and are like, "Yes, let me." Well, some of them are. Evan would be.
Mhm.
I could see Maya being a toughie.
Well, I was looking at the Wikipedia for Game Changers,
Right.
and they were talking about how oh gosh, let me just make sure. How
Right.
Maya is considered the enforcer of the group, and I was like,
I could
I
see that.
I
Because
could
she's
see it,
tough.
but at the same time, like, I need to see some more enforcement.
Well, right. So if you were a kid watching the show now, like if you were in their age group, which character would you identify with the most?
Oh, come on, it's Nick. It's Nick. Like I'm fully Nick. Like at that age, I was living in Canada, so I had the hockey and I played defense and I played goalie. But
Right.
I would if it was me now, I am Nick. Like I I have a lot of the
No
same
question.
things. No question, hands down, Nick. Although if I was in like a social circle, if I wasn't like in Nick's social circle, I
Right.
would have been in Lauren's social circle.
Right. I get that. That makes sense.
Or Coob. But I don't think Coob would have talked to anybody. Coob would have been like that loner that he just floats through school and he plays video games and no one knows what he does. And then they'd make up some like random rumors like, oh, he only comes out after dark, or he just some
Only
random.
comes out after dark.
He's got like random, like
Right.
he's got the
Has
random,
mystique.
those random rumors that float through school about like
Right.
what he does with his time. Like they never see him outside of school.
Right. I get that too. Because this is what grade are they supposed to be in? They're
Uh,
supposed to be
My
middle
guess
school?
is they've got to be middle school.
Right. Because I went to a small Catholic school. We did not have a middle school. It was K through 8,
Okay,
and my entire grade was 17 students. So these types of cliques didn't really exist
right,
because there were 17 kids and that was it.
yeah,
So I have a hard time because they all seem maybe this is why I had such a hard time with viewing them as stereotypes in the beginning. Stereotypes of misfit kids. Because when I was that age, um, we had to all be together. We were kind of like the team, right? You're
yeah,
17 kids, you're together all the time.
Yep.
There was no changing in and out. There was no room to have social circles.
Right.
You were friends with whoever was in the class, um, kind of by default. So, like, I was nerdy, in the sense that I was super into musical theater. I was big into pop music and stuff at the time, but also I was had been in that school since I was in pre-K, so I in my head was basically like also a queen bee
Mhm.
because there were 17 kids, and that's not a lot of kids.
Right.
So you don't have enough to sort of have everybody split off. Like, I don't remember, outside of one girl who I ultimately did not get along with by the time we were in 8th grade, I don't really remember there being huge cliques. Somebody who was in my class might come up to me and say that I'm crazy and wrong, but it was definitely not as overt as it is for this age group in this show when in my experience at that time. So, like, I was nerdy, but I definitely was not Lauren level,
Mhm.
like, at all. I was probably more like Maya. I definitely probably would have been the enforcer because I was one of the taller kids at that time. But I was like Maya if Maya had been into musical theater and not into, like, whatever those popular girls were into.
Right.
We also had uniforms, so there was no, like, a lot of the elements that make this world work were not in my world at that age group
Mhm.
because we didn't have you weren't showing up in a cape because you were wearing the same thing as everybody else. We had uniforms, that was it. So I had a hard time kind of looking at it and going, "Oh, yeah, that kid would have been me," because I just didn't live in that world to get it.
Yeah.
Maybe which is also possibly why I loved D3, because in D3, they go into a private school,
A private school.
and I was like, "This is not exactly what my world was," because we were not boarders or anything. Like,
Mhm.
they dorm and stuff, I think, in that movie,
Right.
and we didn't have any of that, but I was like, "I understand this world." Like, now we're where I get it. And that makes sense to me. So I found it hard to, like, figure out because I feel like if I was that age and had been watching this show, I would have been like, "I don't think I'm any of them." Actually, you know what? I probably would have been Sophie
Okay.
because she isn't too much of anything. She's not she's really smart. I was like that. It's at that age group. She works hard. She's not afraid to get in the middle of things in terms of when they're playing. Yeah, I probably would have been Sophie. It would have taken me a while to realize it, like just now. Because I'm going, I definitely like I feel my heart says I should have been Lauren because I was nerdy and I am still nerdy, but I don't associate with her at all. So I probably would have been Sophie. That's true, and my best friend was a guy, so I definitely would have been Sophie.
There you go.
There we go. We figured it out. Sorry, everybody who's got to hear me try and figure it out. He can edit this out. My lengthy tirade on trying to figure it out because you were like, "Oh, I'm Nick. It's so obvious," and I'm sitting there going, "Actually, my best friend was a guy named Nick." So there we are. There's a
Yeah.
shout out I didn't think I would give in 2021 from
There
back
we are.
from middle school age.
Well, there we are.
I know, right?
Well,
Uh, do we know though? What? Sorry, I cut you off.
oh,
Do
no,
we
it's okay.
know what the general response to the show has been? Because most of the people that I've seen talking about it have been people who were like us and love the movies.
I saw that it was out of like a 60. Let me pull it up because I could just close the Wikipedia page. Reception. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 89%.
Okay.
With an average score being about 6.7. The consensus it says is Game Changers doesn't quite flip the puck, but it has enough heart and good humor to make the Mighty Ducks proud.
Okay.
Which
Which sounds about right.
yeah, it sounds about right. It definitely depends. I've got to assume it depends on the person that's going to be reviewing it. Quite honestly,
Well, right.
if they're in our age range bracket of seeing the movies and loving it and seeing it continue on,
Right.
then I can see it getting the higher scores. Which obviously, if it's got an 89% out of 36, Some people are rating it a lot higher. Some people are rating it like in the 60s ish.
Right, and we have no
Um,
idea what percentage of that would be kids rating it.
I think with Rotten Tomatoes, you have to have like an approved.
Right, so that's an adult's
Yeah,
impression. I wonder what kids are thinking.
I don't know, and my kids haven't seen it, so I can't ask them.
Well, right.
Um, but uh, uh, again on Twitter, I haven't really seen a lot. And I never saw it trending for spoilers. So
Yeah.
because because it
Streaming makes that harder anyway, though.
well with this because it came out on the same Friday as Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I always made the conscious effort to watch Mighty Ducks before that because I was like I want to go in. I've got a nice like 25-30 minute chunk of just I know what I'm getting, and I know it's going to
Right,
be good for my brain before I turn on Falcon and Winter Soldier.
right. I was this was the only new show at the time that I was watching, although I did eventually watch WandaVision. I didn't watch that when it first came out. It took me a while before I watched it. This was the first new Disney Plus show
Hmm.
that I watched, as it came out. And I didn't know how their new material would be. I know people who watch that show Big Shot and like it.
Yep, I've seen that
Uh,
around.
yeah,
So
I haven't seen that yet. That'll probably be next, I guess. So now they've got hockey and basketball. I need my baseball show. Somebody somebody give me like an Angels in the Outfield TV show. I'll be there. I'll be watching it, being really, really into it. Although, actually, in some respects, I think it's good that they don't because I know a lot more about baseball than I know about hockey. And so, like with hockey, it's easy for me to just enjoy it
yep.
and not get annoyed at certain things that wouldn't happen that way, or
Hmm.
that's not the rule, which is kind of nice. It's
Right.
nice to be able to just like you said, just it's going to be fun. You're going to enjoy it. Like even though we sat here and we kind of pulled it apart,
Yep.
um, I enjoyed it. I didn't have any episodes where I was like, I don't want to keep watching this.
Oh yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that never happened. I did say at one point, I hope they're not the Don't Bothers Forever because I hate that name.
Yes. That
That
that agree.
I did feel like they beat that into the ground a little. So I was like, thank God they're fighting for the Mighty Ducks at the end. But yeah, I was just wondering what kids thought of it because I guess also shows take longer to be found sometimes now
Hmm. Yeah.
because of the way they're released. But I need to know, children out there, if you hear this,
Children
tell
that are
us.
listening to this podcast, tales from
Or
the fandom at
that's right.
gmail.com.
You never know who's listening.
That's right.
Or parents of children who know somebody who's watching it, or aunts, uncles, cousins of children who are watching it. I wanna know because I do feel like it's a definitely gonna be a different perspective depending on your relationship to the movie. I'd also be interested in hearing from adults who had not seen the movies
Hmm. Yeah,
because that's a whole different group of people.
that's a whole new section of people.
Right.
That would be fascinating to hear their thoughts on it.
Right, and if you, like, watch the series first and then go see the movies, is it like a culture shock? Because 'Cause they're not talking the way they talk in this I mean, Bombay literally calls Averman an idiot in the first one. When he's doing that whole, like, swing batter thing in the
Yes.
box, and
Yep.
he's like, "It's not baseball, it's hockey, you idiot." Like, Bombay's not saying that on Disney Plus.
No, he's not.
I mean, that even tones down when you get to the 2nd movie and the 3rd movie
Yeah. Yeah.
a little, but these kids are a long way off from being the ages of the people in those later movies.
Hmm. Yeah, they've got some time.
Oh, yeah, we're not getting to the fire ants scene for a couple of years, right? Do you remember
Oh
the fire
yeah, yeah.
scene?
I know that scene. I remember that.
I used to watch that one all the time because it was one of my favorite scenes. I was like, "This is hilarious." These kids are, they're still in that, like, really nice age where you've got this kind of purity to you
Hmm.
before the cynicism creeps in. Oh
If
gosh, I'm horrible.
if I can throw it back to one of your other fandoms, they're in their Sansa Stark phase of being in
They
Winterfell
are.
before going to
They
King's Landing.
are. It's that point where you still are like, "Life is good." But life hasn't beaten me down. Oh, some of them have had, obviously, we've seen in the show, some of them have had not the best lives,
Yeah.
background stories. They still have that kind of dewy optimism,
Yep.
which I'm hoping for their sakes, they're gonna keep it because we don't need this show to go down a dark path.
No.
That is not necessary.
We don't need the after school special episode of the
Oh my
Mighty Ducks Game Changers.
oh my gosh, no, we don't. We need to see them living their kind of best lives, especially because longer format will allow a lot more outside plot lines than we ever had in those other movies.
Absolutely.
But we hope there's a season 2.
Yes, give us a season 2, Disney.
Do we know if he'll come back? If, Estevez said he would do another season? Do we know?
I believe, the thing that I read earlier was Lauren they would have all the kids come back, Lauren Graham come back, and I imagine, Emilio Estevez is an executive producer on it, so I
True.
can't see that he wouldn't come back for it.
I mean, it would be nice. It's just I feel like he's a comforting figure to me.
He is, and I know that I've read interviews with the kids talking about how super down to earth he was, and that
Right,
he never made them feel like, "Oh, I'm Emilio Estevez," and
right.
that he was just like another guy on the set for them.
Which is great because given the fact that his whole family is basically performers,
Hmm.
it could very easily not be that way,
Yeah.
but of the fa when I work on sets sometimes, it's usually, oddly enough, like, the people that you think have almost, like, the quote, unquote, "right" to kind of not be down to earth, who are the most down to earth,
Hmm.
and then the ones who really are like, "You didn't earn this," are the ones that kind of have the attitude problems. But it's comforting to hear that he was to them kind of what he was to us as viewers, only obviously with more depth and intensity because they actually knew him. But I like seeing him in every episode is what grounds that series for me in the Ducks.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if it's just Lauren Graham going out there being like, "We're gonna be the Ducks," it's like, "What? Why? Like, what's your real tie to this? Give me more.
Give me more.
Tell me more."
All right, Christine.
Yes.
I think we've covered
A lot.
Mighty Ducks Game Changers along with the movies and a few other things thrown in here or there.
Yes. Thank you for
For
having me.
Of course,
It
and
was wonderful.
for people that have listened and they want to find out where they can listen to you more or follow you and get more of your thoughts, where can they do that?
You can tweet to me. My Twitter handle is my name is purpose. Like as one word, no spaces. Or anything from Footnoting History because I run our social media channels. So if you search for Footnoting History, I'll be the person who answers you, and I'll be like, "Oh, they want to talk about the Mighty Ducks, not history." Okay, I know how they found me. Let's go. So that wouldn't be a problem either because I really do want to hear what people think. Not about necessarily our opinions, but what they thought about the show and how they related to it from wherever they came at it, and which character they identified with.
Absolutely, because I'd love to know more. So especially when I'll be promoting the episode, I'll be putting out some quizzes and things to get some information,
Yes!
so that way I can report back to you.
Excellent, I can't wait.
Now, for people that maybe have missed Christine on this podcast previously, you had actually appeared on an episode way back, episode
I did.
149, released back in 2019. So,
It's
in
true.
fact, when this episode comes out, it'll be almost 2 years to your episode release.
And totally different topic.
Totally different
We
topics.
have totally pinged from Game of Thrones and my love of the Lannisters to something totally different. But again, it ties together with the fact that I want people to be, like, not just perfect all the time. It
Exactly.
makes sense. So there are some coherencies.
So for those listening, I'll have all the links to Christine's social media and Footnoting History podcast, along with the previous episodes. That way you can take a listen and listen to her talk about Game of Thrones and the Dark Gift series and
Yes.
podcasting and all the stuff that she's into. And Christine, I just want to say thank you for loving the Mighty Ducks enough, like me, to want to do an episode about the TV show.
Oh, thank you for inviting me so I had a reason to talk about it and wear my jersey.
Yes, got to remember the
Yeah,
jersey.
of course. Do we quack now? Is that how we say goodbye?
Sure, let's quack it out.
Sure, yeah.
Quack,
Quack, quack,
quack, quack.
quack.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.